Our analysis fits with the next story.
Yes, what they are talking about that we didn't want to fail to bring you is Trump's handling of potentially sensitive information. And I do have to say, we're going to get to this like incredibly cringe Hillary post later on, the butter emails. She's like trying to sell hats with butter emails.
You don't have enough money? You got
the whole merchandise
$50 million.
shop I really recommend to you because it is some of the most cringe
These people.
most cringe merchandise I've ever seen in my life. But I do think it's fair to say that if you were super obsessed with how Hillary handled her emails, you should probably care a little bit about this story about
media cares
how Trump handled his classified information. So let's put this up there on the screen. Maggie Haberman, who I think was one of the more solid reporters during the Trump administration and has a new book coming out this fall called Confidence Man about his rise and about his presidency. She gave Axios this little scooplet that she got, which is that reportedly Trump had a habit of flushing documents down the toilet in the White House residence. Here's Axios. They say, while President Trump was in office, staff in the White House residence periodically discovered wads of printed paper clogging a toilet and believed the president had flushed pieces of paper. That is the Maggie Haberman scoop. Let's go ahead and put Politico up on the screen. Of course, Trump denies it. He says that the allegations are another fake story, calls them categorically untrue, simply made up by a reporter in order to get publicity for a mostly fictitious book. A mostly fictitious book, by the way, that he apparently cooperated with.
Yeah, he sat down with her. Yeah.
He just can't resist, can he?
No,
Cannot
every
resist.
person I know who's writing a book about Trump, it's the easiest thing in the world to get to sit down with him. That's his, I remember, I can tell you this, I interviewed Trump the day that Bob Woodward's first book came out, and his biggest pet peeve was that Bob had not spoken to him for the book. Now, it's not that Bob didn't try, it's that his staff never told him that Bob Woodward was calling. Yeah, that's what was happening. So just a little bit of inside info.
And part of the deal with Maggie is she covered him as part of the New York press.
Yeah, she knew him for a long time.
For
he
a
used
long
to call
time.
her constantly. I mean, this is the other thing I can also put out there, just because I worked in the press corps and I knew how it worked. A lot of the times when Maggie Haberman would say a senior administration official, that senior administration was Trump.
Yeah.
He technically is the most senior administration official. Many of the Trumpkins will not believe me on this. He had a great relationship with the press. He would call them constantly. He was always checking up on what was going on. And as much as they bashed him, the press in public, they loved Trump. They could call him. They knew he was the only president in history who would just call a reporter randomly just to chat and be like, what's going on with this? And then leak something off the record. I saw it all firsthand
well, it makes sense
while I was there.
It was a total symbiotic relationship.
Exactly, because they were getting rich.
It was great for him.
And he was getting press.
Now look at how their ratings are.
Yes.
And you can see why they enjoyed that relationship with the president. But I do think, I will read Maggie's book when it comes out.
Yeah, I'll read it.
I'll be much more interested in that one than in some of the other ones. The other piece of the Trump classified information story, and we don't know, by the way, obviously we don't know, first of all, if it's true about the toilet. Second of all, what was being flushed, whether it was sensitive or classified. We don't know. All we know is that staff were saying, according to Maggie Haberman, that they were finding wads of printed paper in the toilet. It does sound like the sort of thing Trump would do, I will say that much. The other piece that we have a little bit more on is the fact that he brought a lot of documents, some of which were classified and reportedly some of which were even marked top secret, down to Mar-a-Lago rather than handling them in the way that's appropriate. They're supposed to be handed over to the National Archives so they can sort of take care of them. He apparently brought a bunch of stuff with him, boxes and boxes, down to Mar-a-Lago, and there are questions about the legality of doing so. Now, what I will say is that the president has a lot of latitude with regards to classified documents, including—
because he's the classifier in chief.
He's the classifier in chief. So if he wants to declassify something, he can unilaterally do that. So for those who are thinking there might be a legal case here against Trump, it's probably going to be pretty difficult to prove. It's a high legal bar to get to criminal charges, the Washington Post says. Prosecutors would have to prove someone intentionally mishandled the material, was grossly negligent in doing so, which can be a steep hurdle in its own right. That's why Hillary wasn't charged, is because they didn't deem that she met that bar of intentionally mishandling the material or being grossly negligent in doing so. And Trump, as president, would have had unfettered latitude to declassify material, potentially raising even bigger challenges to bringing a case against him. But I do think Edward Snowden made a really good point. Let's put his tweet up on the screen. He says, once upon a time, just copying a top secret document was enough to get you prosecuted. Ask me how, I know. And with Trump and his staff, and there were things about Ivanka and how she handled classified information, all of that, and with Hillary Clinton, I think it shows you the way that routinely elites feel like none of the normal rules apply to them. And oftentimes they don't apply to them, and there is no accountability for the crimes that they do commit.
No, I think you're right. And this is, again, one of those stories where it's like, oh my God, yes. I mean, did anyone expect Trump to handle classified information well? No.
No.
And this is also gets to the whole and Hillary trying to capitalize on this classic. Let's put this up there.
God.
She posted this on screen, but her email, she's selling these hats because apparently the lady's not rich enough already.
I have to pull up the
please, tell
caption
us.
to this. Hold on, let me pull it up because it includes the word Galentine's Day.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Galentine's Day and the news that Trump was flushing documents down White House toilets. A special edition hat is in the Onward Together store now. As always, proceeds support the work of our partner groups to protect voting rights, help young progressives run for office, and more. Link to get yours in my profile. So guys, just a little tip for you there.
If you want...
For Galentine's Day, you can go get the most cringe merchandise of your life.
That's right. What always bothered me about all of this is that, look, it was not necessarily just the email. It was Hillary gets away with stuff that no other person would. And it was about corruption within the elite.
Yeah.
I think that also applies to Trump. Trump also gets away with a lot of stuff that no other normal person would. However, Trump was able to tap into that anger and Hillary was not. And that is her ultimate political failure. So the misunderstanding of the email scandal and so much more, everyone's like, oh, who cares so much about classified information? You never understood, which is, and I'm not saying people are logically consistent. The reason it struck a note was everybody knew that a normal person would have gone to jail for what Hillary did.
That's right.
Everyone knew that. And she didn't, because she was Secretary of State, former First Lady, and had all these connections within the government. And it was a symbol of corruption, of the elites being able to get away with something while nobody else is not.
That's right.
And that's what Trump spoke to.
And that was exactly what people hated the most about the Clintons.
Exactly.
Was this sense that the rules that everyone else had to play by didn't apply to them. And, you tie that in with the Goldman Sachs speeches and all of that, and you could just
Clinton Foundation,
and the way that was tied in with her time at the State Department, and all of this was genuinely awful and played into people's greatest concerns, legitimate concerns about Hillary Clinton, and that is why it struck such an incredible nerve. But for people who profit from not understanding those things, it's easy to just condense it down to like butter emails and paint it like it was just some, unfair smearing of Hillary Clinton. And I mean, the thing I always say is it is incredible. The person who was most directly responsible for giving us Donald Trump is Hillary Clinton.
No question.
And there's
and the people who picked her.
Yeah, that's right. And the people who rigged the system to make sure it was Hillary Clinton. And yet she suffers, there's no accountability there. There was never any soul searching there. Immediately, I mean, this is documented too. Immediately after she loses, they get together in a conference room to decide who they're going to blame that loss and how they're going to spin it.
Russia.
Guess who they decide? Russia. And then the media, like dutiful little puppy dogs, picks up on that narrative and spins out the lies and the conspiracy theories that, just continue unabated and lead us to this dangerous place in Ukraine. So it's sort of like all of these stories there's really a through line and connection to, because a lot of it does start with this woman and Russiagate.
100%. So look, we covered them both, Durham and Flushgate, the only places that will do it. And I think they both speak to obsessions on the right and on the left in litigating 2016 when we got big problems right now.
Yeah.
It's been 6 years, okay? On either side, I just say, let it go. And meanwhile, I see people on CNN be like, this is Waterworks Gate and all this. It's just, I mean, spare us the cringe. For God's sake, please, I'm begging you as a citizen, please spare us from all of this. But they won't. They'll be continually focused on this, and then they wonder why everybody hates each other and thinks that the media focuses on things that don't really matter. So we try to give you all sides of both.
Holistic view. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.